Hey guys, I have some bear facts.
Hello, Commander.
So one of the things I wanted to do was to kind of look up basically the lore, because a lot of times the developers for both, any game, you can always kind of see some sort of cultural ties, if you will. And basically I just kind of wikied the berserkers for the berserker warriors in correlation to Norse mythology, and I found two of our three. I found two, and I might have found a possible third, maybe imaginary clan, you know, one of those like, hey, I guessed it in the future sort of deals. Let me go ahead and move this to the side here so that we can kind of get it so that my annoying webcam isn't in the way, but you guys can still get a nice reading. So bear warriors is, let's start here and then work our way down. So it is proposed by some authors that the berserkers drew their power from the bear and were devoted to the bear cult, which was once spread across the northern hemisphere. The berserkers maintained their religious devotions despite their fighting prowess, as the I'm not going to pronounce it because saga tells of a challenge to single combat that was postponed by a berserker until 3 days after Yule, which has some sort of semblance and meaning, but for us, I don't really know. The bodies of the dead berserkers were laid out in bearskins prior to their funeral rites. The bear warrior symbolism survives to this day in the form of the bearskin caps worn by the guards of Danish and British monarchs, the Royals Guard, and Queen's Guard. So the bears in military, and basically what I wanted to do was kind of go into the lore and the history of the actual bear clan, and see what Shiro Games might be pulling. So obviously when we look at the trailer, it's a bear paw. We can kind of all generally attest that it's a bear paw, or generally agree. I was thinking, it's like, hey, if we can pretty much guarantee it's the bear clan, what is it in the Norse mythology that would kind of give us a guesstimation as to what we should expect? And I think this line kind of sums it up. In battle, the berserkers, so in this case, like the wolf, we'll probably see a berserker clan war chief, so we'll have a berserker, were subject to fits of frenzy. They would howl like wild beasts, foaming at the mouth, and gnawed the iron rim off their shields. According to belief, during these fits they are immune to fire and steel, and made great havoc in the ranks of the enemies. When the fever abated, they were weak and tame. Accounts can be found in the sagas. So, to go berserk was to hamask, which translates as change form. So basically a warrior would become, the bear spirit or the wolf spirit, for whichever. In this case, as with the sense of to enter a state of wild fury. One could transform as a berserker was typically thought of as a haram or hamaram, whoa, Black Betty, bam, sorry, or shapestrong. For example, the band of men that go with Skallgrim in Egil's saga to see King Harald about his brother's Throlrof's murder are described as the hardest of men, with a touch of the uncanny about the number of them. They were built and shaped more like trolls than human beings. This is generally interpreted as a band of men being hamramr. So, essentially what I'm thinking we're going to be seeing here, at least from the uncredible, the ever vast and in-depth wiki, we'll probably be seeing a very, I would think maybe even a larger, I mean, I don't know if they're going to go into the aesthetically speaking that much. We'll be seeing maybe a slightly larger built villager model and maybe even unit model. We actually saw this a couple times when I believe multiplayer was first released, actually, where you were seeing these kind of weird bugs of units being slightly larger than themselves. Again, this is by the way, I'm gonna put a giant like theory crafting atop the cross of all of this, because I am going to be basically just splicing a lot of it together. And of course, none of this is confirmed. This is all just speculation and or just kind of ideas as to what we might be seeing for the bear clan, the bear clan. Okay. So this is all just kind of ideas and or theory crafting as to what we might be seeing. So continuing with the lore hunt, in Native American folklore there are many tales about bears. It is highly respected as the keeper of dreams and the keeper of medicine, and one of the most powerful totems. Bears hibernate, giving them associations with the world of dreams. So again, this one kind of makes me think like we might be seeing some sort of there's been kind of concern, at least through the community, from where I've read and such, that there really isn't a lot to do in winter, and I think we might actually see something happen here with the bears being, you know, it's a bear. What do bears do in winter? They hibernate, you know, and they're very big, mean, and bulky. Maybe we'll be seeing some sort of hibernation trait or ability which gives them some sort of bonus through winter. This one is from Norse mythology for smart people, so we're smart people. And I thought this would be a good spot for us to maybe get some more bonus information. Okay, so again, I think that we will probably be seeing, I think again, some sort of more militaristic, combat based, if you will, clan, as again from another totally reputable site from .org. So it is a .org site, so at least in American standards, that's pretty reputable. During the Viking Age, these warrior shamans typically fell into two groups: the berserkers, old, that's a word, meaning bear shirts, and that word pronounced Olfhithnar with a hard th, as in the, which also meant wolf hides. These groups were late developments of the earlier Germanic warband and shared much in common with the warlike shamanism of the circumpopular people. So again, there's a lot of ties, at least from what I have found, in conjunction with the wolf tribe and the bear clan. So we might very likely be seeing a tie, at least in terms of the combat. We might be seeing another militaristic or aggressive sort of clan here, in terms of what in terms of like how the clan will operate and function. I don't think we'll be seeing something like when the wolf clan, kills a wolf or a bear, they get like plus 30 and I think plus 150 for, killing those units. We might be seeing more traits like hibernate. I would think, at least for the bears, that fur coats would be one of the traits that they would have. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and whip out my notebook here. So for the bear clan, I want to look at it in two parts, basically. You have the aggressive, if the bear is kind of coded to be more of an aggressive, militaristic sort of group, as the lore and Norse mythology has given us, or maybe it's more of like a defensive, kind of the sleeping giant sort of deal for... for Northgard. Straight off the bat, you have the obvious three. You have sharp axes, weaponsmith, and trading. And we'll just go from the top down, and we will just kind of exclude sharp axes and weaponsmith when I'm talking. So if I'm talking about, colonization and mining efficiency, that is column 1. If I'm talking about recruitment and medicine, column 2, Hearthstone and fire, field rations, column 3, basically, just so we kind of can all imagine it. And I'll probably leave something over here, there we go, over here to help explain everything. So in sharp axes, for the first column, I actually kind of think, defensively at least, we're going to be seeing more or less the standardization across the board between both the wolf bear defensive and the wolf bear offensive. You're going to have colonization and you're going to have mining efficiency. Nothing too crazy or wild, and my reasoning behind that is they're both two really good traits to have for any clan, basically. Colonization, especially for the bear, I mean, especially like the goat, you know, you always kind of go for those traits anyways. You know, if you happen to have a bunch of stone next to you, mining efficiency is always even better anyway. So it's kind of a matter of the situational bonus, and that allows you to kind of work both ways. Moving on, we will have recruitment and medicine in row 2, and this is where we might see, at least for in the defensive side, one of the first bear kind of bonuses, if you will. And that's going to be called Greater Medicine. And that's the best name I could come up with, shut up. So, on the top you have recruitment. You guys all know what recruitment is. It basically just gives you a greater increased pop growth time. So it's, you know, nothing crazy or out of the blue. But Greater Medicine, it's basically like Medicine, the trait now, except instead of only giving you 50% healing bonus, it now gives you 75 or even 100% increased bonus or increased healing rate for your units. And essentially, my reasoning behind that is, if we look back at the Norse mythology, the idea of the bear is to be this smart, healing, you know, somewhere it was the bear is the healing and the maker of dreams. So my thought is, if anywhere there was a trait for the bears to be, that's probably where we would see one of their traits, at least if this was defensively. I still also think that this might be an offensive trait, but again, theory crafting. So regardless, for the next one, we will have Hearthstone, because bears, which I think will be also in both defensive and offensive, is going to be known as Hibernation. Now, Hibernation is, you know, it kind of sounds as it is. Basically, what will happen is, when this trait is acquired by the player, you get like something along the lines of a 40 to 45% food consumption reduction on top of Freya's Blessing, which is also another 20%. So obviously, as the bear, you have incredible food storing potential during winter. Now, the penalty for taking such a significant boost is you also have a 5 to 10%, well no, it's probably like 2 to 5, because it's supposed to be, you know, a bear specialty, 2 to 5% overall production reduction. Ooh, rhyming words. So basically, on top of your units already producing at a lower rate during winter, they are now producing 2 to 5% less. So you still, at least for the 45 to 50% food reduction debuff, or buff, really, you know, you shouldn't be starving. You should be slowly, but like if a blizzard hits, if winter late game hits, you really shouldn't be losing that much food in comparison to the goat, the stag, the raven, the wolf, you know, basically anyone else. And I wanted to add that debuff because I feel like it would help balance out a lot of the abilities. I think, at least in my opinion, the tech tree in itself needs a big reworking so that you have more specialized and unique traits across the board for all the clans. So, but that's just me, and that'll be a whole nother thing for another time. So, again, continuing on the defensive side of the bear in Weaponsmith, and again, a lot of these will kind of play into both here, but in Weaponsmith, you have some sort of increase to fur coats. So essentially, when this ability is enabled or activated, it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be like a buffed fur coats. So when you're outside of your combat or your territory or something, you actually get not only the reduction of being outside your territory during winter removed completely, like fur coats, you also get like a plus 5 to 10% weapon damage increase, because you are the bear, you're big and strong, and because you have all that extra fur on you, somehow there's something about extra damage. It gives you about a 10 to 15% damage increase for, you know, bear skin or this ability, essentially. Underneath that option is going to be cartography. Basically, it's just a filler option, kind of like colonization and mining efficiency. Or actually, the better example would be pillage versus fur coats for the wolf. Pillage is basically the steeple option for the wolf. You know, you have that one thing that the wolf always needs to have. Fur coats is of course always good, but you always need to have pillage, you know. In the second column, you're going to have sharp weapons. Again, it's supposed to be like a militarized wolf with just a couple subtle variances. So yeah, in the second column, you'd have sharp weapons. I'm not too sure what they would have for underneath that. You know, I don't think that they would want to have like a young and proud or something to kind of just keep throwing damage on them, because you do need to have some sort of standard or balance. But there would obviously need to be something underneath that. And then for the final under Weaponsmith, so basically the bear's military, I would think again, theory crafting, you have for another bear specialty called the bear spirit. And essentially what the bear spirit is, besides having an incredibly itchy nose, when your berserker, because again, looking at the lore, it has to be a berserker. If it's a war chief, Shiro Games, I'm coming for you, because I've got internet facts to back me up. When, at least in the Norse mythology, when I was looking around, and here I can pull up the quote real quick. So, one of the defining features of shamanic traditions across the world is an initiation process characterized by a symbolic, and occasionally literal, death and rebirth, whereby the shaman-to-be acquires his or her powers. So basically, my interpretation of that is what is called the bear spirit, where when a war chief, or excuse me, a berserker is killed in combat, they come back to life after a 2 or 3 second, you know, death cycle time, whatever, and they are brought back to life as the avatar of the bear spirit. So essentially, yes. So the bear spirit. I think if I remember correctly, we were going over how once the berserker dies, they would become the embodiment of or a avatar of the bear spirit, and then have some, I don't know, like 300 health and bonus like 20 damage or something like that for, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, basically allowing the berserker to become, you know, this holy super figure for just a couple seconds, deal out a couple more damage, and then just straight die, and then, you know, same cost penalties apply to them. Basically, just kind of giving the bears this kind of I don't know, the twist, you know, that little extra thing that kind of makes them interesting. For trading, for the last one, again, this is defensive bear, so on and so forth. Basic trading, first column you have your edition coinage. I mean, simple stuff, basic stuff, always reliable, at least for all of the clans. They always seem to be quite good at kind of keeping those. For the second column, I wasn't really sure about what they would have, because I don't really see the bears being very seaworthy. I mean, technically speaking, bears can swim, but you never really hear, you know, the great tales of the bear clan traveling the sea. And I don't think they're going to be as hearty, if you will, in the water like the raven is. So we'll probably see something other than shipbuilding. I do think that they'll probably have negotiations. The bears, at least in most common cultures, or at least from what I've learned from Brother Bear, the bear is supposed to be this wise, loving kind of thing that's, you know, supposed to help kind of be smart and intelligent. So kind of like the raven in terms of trade deals, I would think, for basically most of this part of the tech tree, but, you know, not as invested, if you will, as the raven is. And then for the last, or the third column, I do think that they're going to have carpet mastery, you know, basic just upgrades, because of, I don't know, it just kind of makes sense. And then for the last one, instead of having like a veiled threats, if it was like the wolf, I would kind of give them something along the lines, this isn't going to be the title, again, still theory crafting, something like a smart deals. So it's sort of like veiled threats, except when you have two or more merchants in a trade post, or yeah, on a trade post or on the marketplace, they get an additional I don't know, like 10 or 15% in all trade or coinage, you know, something like that. Now, this is more of the second half of the video that I wanted to make, and this is more on the recent changes with the wolf pack, or the wolf rush meta that has kind of developed, and axe throwers. This has been something that I've discovered, and this is something that I think needs to really be worked on. And then there's another one, but we'll add that at the very, very end. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was axe throwers, and the current basically super buff that hosts have in comparison to other players. And I'll probably try and find some past video I have where essentially when a non-host player is using axe throwers and they throw axes at a wolf, I mean, all of you have probably seen this at this point. I'm just bringing this up just to kind of have something so that people go, okay, yeah, it's not just me, you know. Something that I know a lot of people have seen is when you try and basically axe throw or cheese a tile, because you can just run up to the line, run over it, throw an axe, run back, run up to the line, throw an axe, run back, and just basically chip the units to death. A lot of times the hits will not register for 4 or 5 seconds, maybe even 10 seconds, and that is a huge window. Okay, and there's been a few instances where I will essentially kill a unit. I mean, I will throw enough axes where I know I have killed a unit, and they will still run around and chase my units, and then they will die after some unspoken time. And this is dangerous. This is incredibly dangerous, especially for the few other things that I actually want to bring up now that I remember them. In competitive matchmaking or in just casual gameplay amongst friends, this can be an incredibly unfair advantage to the host, because the host will always get the guaranteed damage, because obviously if it's host based, the host will always, you know, refresh and everything. But for a person that is trying to fight an opponent that may have more units, may have less units, you know, that damage that doesn't register for a couple seconds, that is basically free time for whoever is receiving those axes to get free damage. You know, if I throw enough axes to kill my opponent's berserker or war chief, and that war chief hasn't died in the game yet because the axes haven't registered, and they start swinging at some of my units, that is basically free damage that should be dead war chief berserker got off, that it wouldn't have been able because of how the host system is working. And that's just, you know, it's kind of sucks, you know, when you're trying to micro or do something, and you're splitting your units, you know, perfectly, you're doing great, but you're not killing the units just because of connectivity. You know, it's kind of like you're this close to just killing everything, and you can't because of something that you really can't control. Another thing that was actually brought up recently, Parado 2K, and I will bring up the whole thing here. Alright, so this guy has top 6 suggestions for Shiro games after a whopping 50 hours of playtime. Add more reward unlocks for multiplayer. Problem, the rewards for this multiplayer playtime are too limited. The titles that you added in your last patch are an excellent start, but they are too little. I recommend adding more rewards, such as unlocking avatars, portraits, cosmetic skins, subtitles based on achievements, and more. This is critical to keep the multiplayer community alive for years to come. Good example, Heroes of the Storm. More unlocks for multiplayer. I'm going to, in my opinion, I would agree. I think that it's always nice to have more cosmetic things, but my counter to that is put it on the back burner for now, because I think that there's more important things, i.e. like the axe throwers. There are more important things that need to get fixed, that need to get taken care of. Add micro ability for military units. Problem, the military component of the game is too simplistic. I would actually add on to that, it's too simplistic, and the micro macro, well, it's very much so a macro sort of economy game, which is, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're trying to micro your units, it is almost impossible, especially when the two armies collide. Adding toggle on-off abilities and cooldown abilities for certain military units. For example, add an ability on cooldown unique to the chieftain of each race. It's a clan, but... Or allow certain units to raise their shields and absorb damage, but slow their movement. Good example, Warcraft 3, Company of Heroes. So this is something that I've been preaching for a while now, and I totally agree. I would love to see units with specific abilities or special options. Now, allow units to raise their shields and absorb damage but slow their movement. Those are called shield bearers, and they do exist in the game. But a chieftain or a berserker to have, you know, a war cry, or axe throwers to be able to, you know, throw a higher rate of, you know, kind of like a stim pack for a marine, be able to throw more axes, but take damage for that. Add more types of military units. Problem: having 4 to 5 type of units is too limiting for military strategy. I would say that that's actually 4 to 5 is just about that sweet number, because if you look at StarCraft for an example, or even Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3 or Company of Crusaders, whichever he wants. In a Terran army, you only ever see Terran Marines, Marauders, tanks, and medevacs. It's 4 units. But again, it's usually a very mono or duo army comp. It's usually not a high unit. Add 2 or 3 more unit military types, for example, artillery, warships, transports, units that can burn buildings, whatever makes sense for Vikings. Okay, so... well, let's dive into this, because I think this is an important idea here. Artillery, that would be really difficult to work, especially on a tile system. I mean, it makes sense. Basically, you place your artillery unit in a tile, and then it can shoot into another tile. But my current problem with the game is actually it's a more of sense of the line dancing that goes on a lot of times in combat. Is actually a little bit more needs to be worked on than units. Warships would be nice to see. Would definitely be nice to see. But that's a very, very niche kind of thing. I mean, you already have the Ravens with their mercenaries, which I think is actually more than enough in terms of warships. And transport ships kind of goes back into the mercenary things. I totally agree that there needs to be some sort of naval thing. But Northgard is more of a tile-to-tile inland thing, not tile-to-tile outside of the island. You know, it's supposed to be a battle on the island, not a battle around the island. Units that can burn buildings. Well, I mean, besides maybe killing towers, there really isn't a need for units that can burn buildings. Of course, again, this is just a suggestion. This is just a critique of the suggestion. I hope you understand. You know, the problem with this is you're taking Stronghold Crusader as the reference, and in Stronghold Crusader, you can build walls, on your tiles so that it becomes difficult to actually siege that castle. The problem with Northgard, though, this is a battle of tiles, not unlimited space. You can move around without having to go tile to tile to tile in Stronghold Crusader. In Northgard, you have to go tile, tile, tile. You can't just, bypass a tile. Allow players to build walls or wooden palisades. Problem: players focusing on economic victories have limited options for fortifications, but it is impossible to stop scouts right now. Well, the scouts, there's never really been, I've never seen really a reason why you shouldn't be allowed to stop scouts, besides being invisible. But if you're allowed to build palisades or walls to block scouts, then what's the point of having scouts? Yes, you can scout ahead of your land, but I've been of the opinion, I think scouts are good in their current situation as they are for now. Walls or palisades, I would think maybe building it, maybe being allowed to build them in a certain way. I don't know. That would definitely be something that I would maybe have Shiro Games look into, but I don't know. I'm actually kind of on the wall about building walls. I don't know. Expand the tech tree. As I was saying for the bear section, I absolutely agree. I think that there needs to be a more specialized... the tech tree doesn't offer a huge variety of research-oriented strategies. Add some more options to the tech trees. Micro abilities may help you add more. For example, a tech might be your War Chieftain's Rally Cry now does 10% more damage. I swear to God, somewhere in this stream, I actually brought this up as an ability, but I'm not gonna take credit because I don't have the proof of it. No, I absolutely agree. I think that allowing your, making your tech trees more specific per clan would be significantly more, beneficial than having, you know, this mixed match of, this clan can do this as well as this clan, but not this clan, you know, it's just kind of weird. Improve invasion alert, invasion alert for tile invasions by mobs. Yeah, no, it's easy to accidentally ignore important events like invasion by wolves, etc. Besides flashing the tile on the minimap, provide a recurring audio alert and recurring on-screen message. I believe the on-screen message and the audio alert actually have been added. I don't know if it's reoccurring, but I do know that there is an on-screen warning that goes across and stays on your screen until you either clear it or deal with it. Add server hosting and rank matchmaking mode. Shiro Games has already publicly said that they don't have dedicated servers, so it's just not a thing yet. And ranked matchmaking mode has been, I think, just about on everyone's mind, of recently at least. Peer-to-peer hosting has a problem with host disconnects and latency. Also, there is no ranked multiplayer there is no ranked multiplayer mode with an ELO or similar system that encourages competitive play. That's true. This is also alpha. So, you know, this is the wonderful land of alpha where everything, you know, everything can be added in the future. Make healers more powerful as they're not viable now. You must be playing too much of the GOAT. Problem, healers are not powerful enough to justify building them. It's more effective to let units die and retain new ones. I'm not too sure if I agree with that one. You can, especially late game, you can always suggestion increase the healing rate significantly, make healers more valuable, plus 50%. So basically he's suggesting return it back to its original rate at 100%, which, I mean, I'm always a big fan of. I've always, you know, promoted healers. What I typically do, to be absolutely honest with you, is if I'm playing the Wolf, Stag, or Raven, I always get medicine. And then I will build 2 or 3 healing huts, you know, in my food tiles, so that when, you know, I have to bring units back, I've got 4 or 5 healers that are currently just being food gatherers, just boom, switch, and now I've got 4 healers working on 1 Viking, boom, you know, my guy is good to go, and it's not even a problem. But again, I've only played 100-something hours in the game. I haven't played a whopping 50, so I've got to be careful what I say. Fix win-loss statistics for multiplayer. Sometimes multiplayer games do not record wins or losses. This happens especially if I win quickly, but also in other situations. Suggestion, investigate errors in way win-losses are recorded. Gonna need more things than that. I mean, that's, you know, always something to definitely add, I guess. I don't know. Add high starting resources options for multiplayer matches. Problem, some people complain that matches last too long or feel like single player matches. Suggestion, let host toggle on off starting resource options to accelerate player contact. Good examples. Other RTS games do this, but I don't recall which. Maybe Age of Empires 2 HD. The current length of every game that I've played so far is about 30 to 45 minutes in general, whether that be with all of the win conditions enabled or just domination only. Typically, most games end around 30 to 45 minutes, which, if you compare that to basically any other game. Well, if you compare that to games like League of Legends or Dota, I mean, that's a pretty good time, to be honest with you. And if it's a 1v1, I would actually say it's a lot quicker. It's probably around the 15 to 20 minute mark in terms of gameplay. So I actually think that the current timing of the game is actually quite good. I mean, of course, having a high starting resource options for your friends so that you can kind of just get right into it and start killing each other is absolutely always recommended. So I'm not going to say it's a bad option, but I think blaming the resource rate and saying that it feels too slow is probably not where you want to go. I definitely agree that having a high starting resource rate is always a good idea, but I don't think the resources are the reason that the game feels slow. Allow players to trade resources with each other. That already exists. I'm gonna just ignore that. Fix exploiting entering/leaving tiles for axe throwers, plus reset attack clicking. This one I was actually mentioning beforehand, and I totally agree. I absolutely agree. There is a big issue with axe throwers being able to run in, throw an axe, back out, run in, throw an axe, back out, and so on and so forth. It's just annoying, and it kills the fun. It kills a lot of the fun in the I'm going to take my giant Viking army and kick the crap out of you with, kick the crap out of your giant Viking army, and I'm going to be the king of the island. This is more of like, it's more like that annoying, that annoying kid in school that does the like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, and then like as soon as the teacher turns around, she goes, just kind of like nails you one, and then you go like, what the heck, dude? And then as soon as you say that, the teacher turns around and looks at you like you did something wrong, and the kid's just sitting there all smug because he just got away with like smacking you in the face, and then as soon as that teacher turns around, bam, he does it again. That's kind of how this feels. It's annoying, it's not painful, but it's, it leaves a little bit of, it leaves you a little flushed. Overall, I think this is a really good, constructive criticism of the game, and I definitely think there's a lot to improve there. Now, this one is this is more towards the end of the video because I wanted to include this. It's always good to promote stuff like this. Greetings everyone. In discussion with this guy, we want to organize our first worldwide tournament. Since this will be our first time, the prizes will be a cool golden flare near your name as the first king of Northgard here in the subreddit. Absolutely famous and fabulous. A cool silver flare for second place, and same for the second, but a copper flare for third. So, I mean, you guys can read all of this down below. I think it's a great idea. This is kind of where I was hoping Northgard would go in the competitive. Let's make a game of this, game. Let's make a scene for this game. And right now, I'm very optimistic. I personally have already reached out to Funchy JP because I have a few things that I always want to try and support these guys, and I'm actually going to be posting this, in concordance with the video so that you guys, everyone can know what it is. Now, I believe there is, for registration and number purposes, everyone interested must post their Steam IDs and if you own your Twitch channel in this thread. So I absolutely think this is a fantastic idea, and of course, you guys should always, even if you're not going to play, attend. It's always fun to see your, friends play. It's always fun to be in these kind of things because the only thing that you can do in these tournaments is learn more and get better. If you lose the first round, hey, you lost the first round, but now now you can look back and go, why did I lose the first round? And you can see, how did the king of Northgard get to where he or she is? What did they do? How did they win? What are they doing? And then we get to see this is actually going to be great because this is going to be the first time that Northgard is going to see the meta. And I think this is a really important and symbolic first tournament because we're going to see what the cream of the crop of this alpha patch have come up with. When this tournament starts, you'll see people coming up with, these just weird and wacky kind of things where you go, double scouts, you know, first tile, what? You know, you just like, no, that's preposterous. And then you see them and then they go off to win the game and you're like, I can't believe, you know, double scout lodge worked. Like, that's crazy. But, you know, you get to see things that you wouldn't think would work, and then you get to see them work or not work. You know, you get to see the foundations of the meta. So I highly recommend, if you're not going to participate, join in the discussion. You know, come in and talk to people. You know, hey, you know, I can almost guarantee you if this is the first worldwide match and there are almost 2,000 Northgard villagers in this subreddit, I can almost guarantee you that they're probably going to need staffing help. They're going to need, I think it says, we will probably work with a third player hosting the game instead of players hosting it themselves. More on this matter coming to the patch. You know, if you've got 500 games going on and you need a third-party host for every single one of those games, they're going to need people with solid internet. So that's always, you know, any way to help the community is always good to do. So, and for the last one, actually, to kind of, here, we'll switch real quick. One last thing to add to the very first worldwide community tournament is casting. I think this is something that I would really hope that Shiro Games works on as soon as they can, and that is the ability for a third player or a fourth player to spectate a game without having to join the game, scout all the land, and then blow up everything so that they don't, you know, that they aren't a hindrance to the game. I would really love it if, you know, I could spectate the game without interrupting or, you know, being a nuisance to the game, because one of the things that, at least for me personally, I've always enjoyed is casting. I've been casting now for almost 5 years, and I have to say one of the greatest joys of being an absolute nerd is watching two nerds fight for my entertainment, and then getting to, you know, post and critique them on how they did. You know, that's kind of one of the things I've always enjoyed, and especially for this tournament, you know, getting people's names out there. You know, one of the best things about a tournament is people get to find other people that are good, you know, that are skilled, so that you can teach more people. And one of the things that even just for passing on knowledge, you know, it's kind of hard to teach a player how to, you know, how to properly wolf Zerg rush, you know, how to properly do that. It's kind of hard to do it unless you already have OBS or some sort of streaming software to do it. You know, if you can just do it through the game, it makes it a whole lot easier. So I think that's kind of everything I wanted to cover for this video. So it's probably the bear. Hopefully we got the lore right. Axe throwers suck. Wolf rush is a thing, and this tournament is hopefully going to be a very good thing. I've already kind of contacted hopefully the right people, and I've actually been trying to reach Shiro Games about some stuff, but I have got no idea if I'm actually reaching the right people, but we'll see. So with that, I thank you all for being here for this video. Sorry that it kind of ran super duper long again. I've been trying to kind of get down to the important stuff, but thank you all for being here, and I hope you guys have a good day, good afternoon, good night. I'll see all of you guys later. Bye-bye. That these Boombots might... Oh, no, these are being commando Boombots. These little boogers are being very sneaky. And, I mean, that's perfectly fine, but I do not think that Taskbot realizes his very perilous situation. Yeah, these air units are looking. Oh, this is going to be very important. He sees the commander. Now, does Taskbot realize what's going on, though? This is going to, I mean, right now, Taskbot will come in and kill off his base, but the problem with that is, does he lose his commander in time? Does the commander realize what's going on? There are a few docks here, so he might be able to stave it off. Oh, the Boombots! Do they get seen? They do! They get seen by the metal extractor. Now, does Taskbot respond? Does he see them in time? The Boombots are moving in. Does his commander realize he needs to fire the Uber immediately? The Boombots moving in! Boom goes the command! Oh my god, 1%! Mom, get the camera! Oh my goodness! The fabric, oh my goodness! Taskbot's commander surviving with 1%! He lives! He lives! Oh my goodness! He lives! That is a very happy commander. Oh my goodness. That, ladies and gentlemen, go buy some lottery tickets because I have never seen a more lucky commander in all of my life. Oh my goodness, that is one happy commander.